Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Propcast. My name is Louisa Dickens, host of the Propcast and co-founder of LMRE, the global PropTech recruitment and search consultancy. In this podcast, we'll explore how the digital evolution of the real estate industry is impacting the property market. The aim of each episode is to introduce you to a PropTech innovator and discuss how their work has created a shift in focus when it comes down to digitizing the built environment. If you're interested in finding out more about PropTech or applying for a job in this space, or keen to know who the big players are that are moving and shaking the real estate industry up, we have you covered, and we will be bringing you an episode each week to connect to the VCs, PropTech startups, and real estate professionals from around the globe. Also, a big shout out to our sponsors of the podcast, ReamTech and Cretech, who you will hear from during the episode. Today on the Propcast, we will be talking about how we can use data to maximize value in real estate. And who better to talk about this than with CEO and co-founder from HouseCanary, Jeremy Canary.
Thanks, Lou. Great to be here. Great to be on the broadcast.
It's good to have you. Now, everyone listening, as co-founder and chief executive officer of HouseCanary, Jeremy drives the company's vision, strategy, and growth to identify interesting and unique ways to use data to maximize value in real estate. Jeremy was previously a partner and managing director at the Boston Consulting Group, where he helped leading real estate investors to deploy billions of dollars in capital. He lives in the Bay Area with his wife and 3 children and 2 very energetic dogs. Now, a bit of background about HouseCanary, which was founded in 2013. The valuation-focused real estate brokerage provides software and services to reshape the real estate marketplace. Financial institutions, investors, lenders, mortgage investors, and consumers, you name it, turn to HouseCanary for industry-leading valuation forecasts and transaction support tools. These clients trust HouseCanary to fuel acquisition, underwriting, portfolio management, and much, much more. But that's a very sort of brief summary, and we're going to learn a lot more about this later on in the show. But I think without further ado, we might as well start with the questions. And Jeremy, why don't you kick us off with obviously a little bit more about why you started it, but also I'd love to know a bit more about what was it like going from obviously managing director of the Boston Consulting Group as a consultancy to founding your own tech business?
Yeah, it was a wild experience. I'll share a little bit of background on how I got into this. During the depth of the global financial crisis, I was doing consulting, and we had some large private equity firms that started looking at buying real estate. We didn't have a real estate focus at the time, and so picked it up as a generalist.
Yeah.
Started looking at trying to figure out, like any widget, where there were a lot of potential opportunities to buy land at very discount rates, what it was worth. And from that, it felt like a very analog process of trying to take market data and value what the land was worth, what houses on that land could be worth, how many people could buy a home, had jobs and whatnot, buy those homes. And we did it through smart young analysts. Excel and PowerPoint were our tools. And I did that for a number of years and saw that here we were at the time, residential was about a $25 trillion asset class. And we're really similar to most investment funds or investment banks, all making decisions really by hand with Excel and PowerPoint. And I saw a need to bring it into the modern age, try to do it in a much more digital, faster way to ultimately value what properties are worth and make the decision-making faster.
Yeah. And talk me through a little bit more about who your main customers then, or who maybe was your first customer.
Yeah. So our main customers are really on the institutional side of the business. What we've really been focused on is how do you build a really trusted and reliable property valuation that ultimately gives somebody instant certainty. And so the way that we actually built that trust was we focused on the back end of the market, effectively Wall Street and the capital markets first. Our belief was that if ultimately the people who are buying every mortgage-backed security and whole loan trading, the hedge funds, the folks that are funding all the mortgage lenders and the investors at the investment banks, if they trust and use a HouseCanary value, everybody else will further up the chain. I like to refer to it as of 4 out of 5 dentists recommend. For us, 4 of the top 10 major lenders in the US use and depend on HouseCanary. 6 of the top 10 single family rental investors use and depend on HouseCanary. And you can go through the list. Many of the top iBuyers, most of the prop techs who are venture backed use HouseCanary.
That's pretty impressive, Jeremy. Congratulations on that. I'm sure lots of people would die to have that track record. Here is a message from our sponsor, Michael Beckerman from Cretech.
Hey, this is Michael Beckerman from Cretech. I'm here to invite you to check out Cretech Plus, the first streaming platform devoted to innovation and technology in the built world, featuring new weekly videos from the world's leading real estate and tech professionals. The first month of streaming is absolutely free, and then you could use the code LMRE to receive 25% off your second month. To learn more, visit plus.cretech.com.
You obviously founded it in 2013. I've seen this probably leads us quite well into the next question. You know, the market's becoming more saturated, there's more competitors. You obviously have the market edge. You've been around for longer. The product's more developed. What are your sort of USPs? How do you keep your product competitive to others?
First off, my co-founder, Chris Stroud, is a great data scientist. And so we've always had this focus on ultimately doing a couple things. One, bringing together and always spending money to clean the data and make our data as good as possible. Number two, we've continued to invest around not just having the data, but really driving great insights off of that consistently and continuing to push the extreme of what is possible. So when I'm valuing properties, not just saying, okay, we have a value and we're within 2.5%, that's good enough. You know, it's been the last couple years pushing the extremes of taking hundreds of millions of photos and training our models how to do image recognition to understand the condition of a kitchen and of a bedroom and of a bathroom and take that condition and convert it into the value. We've been taking and leveraging data to figure out the front and out the back of a property. Does it have views and how much were those views likely worth? And continuing to push the extreme of what is possible and solve to be more accurate and automate. And then the third thing is, I think if you've used our products, what you'll find is we focus on not just having accurate information, but really just building in good modern UX. User experience and making it a really good experience to use the product. It's easy to use. We provide a lot of background information and support so that you can make better, faster decisions. I would say those things about better data, more insights, and then ultimately around product innovation are where we focus as a business.
That's your secret sauce. After hearing that, you know, your co-founders, his background is obviously data, and obviously your background is a consultancy. Often in businesses, it's just, and I hear this from the VCs, when they look to invest, it's so important having that balance of knowledge and skill set in the standards of the guys leading the business forward. But then also going back to your point of having a really good sort of UX UI, there's such a skill shortage for people doing that globally. So once you have them and they're just integral to growing your business in the right way and making it easier for folks like me to use your product.
Absolutely. We've been very lucky to hire great researchers and engineers and product managers that have been with us, many of them since the very early days, and phenomenally talented people that have helped build this business.
Yeah. Now, we touched upon cleaning up there, and obviously all aware of the importance of good data now. Let's talk about what market data are you seeing in the housing market, specifically within the US?
Yeah, what we've seen as we went through COVID is at the core of it, the demand is just outstripping the supply everywhere you look, right? And demand for real estate is outstripping supply. That's driving prices up. The demand's really coming from a couple different areas. Obviously, with such low interest rates, that's driving demand. People have more equity in their homes than ever. Now, I think people have almost $20 trillion of excess equity in their homes. And so they're trading up. right, in the US, and that's driving demand. We're at the early stages of millennials and millennial household formation that's really driving demand through new first-time buyers, but then also we're seeing more demand than ever from institutions that are looking to buy properties and rent them to the growing millennial home ownership as well. So you're just seeing excess demand in the market. I think that's been the real story here.
And what about, if you can look at your data, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, Jeremy, but what about any sort of future predictions? Demand is going to go up, or anything that you think is going to happen?
When COVID hit early on, everybody thought there was going to be a default tsunami similar to what happened in 2008. And then there was a lot of stimulus and that changed a whole set of behaviors. Boy, with the Delta variant and everything else, pretty hard to forecast what is going to happen. But my sense is ultimately there's going to be strong demand, I would expect, quite a while, that there's more and more demand coming on the institutional side because real estate is a great inflation hedge. It delivers a great yield in a yield starved market, all those things. That's going to drive continued demand. Interest rates really can't go any lower. So if interest rates rise, we'll see a decline in demand, but I think the government will be extremely careful about raising interest rates. And when people feel wealthy in their home, that obviously helps consumers. So it's too early to be raising interest rates or even thinking about it. And so my sense is we're going to see a pretty strong roaring 20s for quite a while, especially, with a strong job market. Jobs drive households need somewhere to live.
Hi, this is Nelson from Property Quants. I'd like to invite you to join our Introduction to Data Science and Machine Learning for Real Estate seminar. To learn more, visit propertyquants.com/seminar and use special code LMRE20 on Eventbrite for a discount.
Okay, what about, you went into this a bit earlier, but I would love for you to expand a bit more. How do you see the sort of role of technology in the real estate space sort of changing? And you can maybe look at it from, you obviously have all these major institutions as your customers. How has that changed? And there's obviously more adoption happening. You've already got your case studies, your product works, but how do you see it changing from now and say, 5 to 10 years?
I think real estate has been in the slower technology adoption curve of many other industries. So you can look at what's happened with other industries. I think at the core of it, we're going to see really two things that we're already seeing. Number one, you're just going to see automate everything. We're seeing that right now. There's just more and more focus on how to take and leverage information to better automate decision-making. And that doesn't mean you're not going to have any people left to do this work, but a lot of the repetitive tasks around underwriting a loan or having information about a property or doing an initial underwrite, those things, I think every business that we see and work with is continuing to infuse more and more information into automating a set of processes that drive more productivity. And I think that trend is happening. It's going to continue to accelerate and we'll just see more and more efficiency and productivity. I think the second big area that you're going to see is just continue increasing digitization of the experience itself. Buying a home, getting a mortgage. You're seeing that now increasingly, and everybody that's using Amazon and every other service in their life is basically demanding that. And those two mega trends will be quite pervasive. I think we're in the early innings of both of those.
Recently spoke with, and you might have heard of this prop tech before, it's called Atmos. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right because I'm being recorded, but the product's all about customize your own home, from literally choosing the land to every single part of the house, everything together. And it doesn't cost you more, just putting your own sort of statement on it, which I've always fascinated by. And I thought, but if I want to change that door, put that floor in and everything on this app, surely that will cost me so much more, but it doesn't, because they've made it less fragmented, put it all together and have their suppliers. So I'm super excited to see what other technologies in this space will come about. And obviously in the UK, we're, for all my UK listeners listening to this, we are behind the US in a lot of technology, not only adoption, but just development of sort of new products. And so I'm quite excited for some of the US ones to come over here in UK and Europe. And we're already seeing that expansion and also what's coming from the APAC way. Now, Jeremy, you've impressively raised your, I think it's Series C. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
What are the sort of big plans for the next? Have you got any targets or growth plans in the next, once we get through this year, the next 2 to 3 years to come?
We're looking at all options, but we're continuing to grow at trickle digits and growing a couple 100% a year still, which is phenomenal. And
pretty good.
thankful to our team and thankful to our clients that we had that opportunity. And
yeah,
I think there's some good market tailwinds that have supported us. And we're happy being a private company, but look at various next steps that many people go down and figure out what the right next path is for us as a company.
I guess everyone listening, watch this space. Did you know that the average cost of making a bad hire in the real estate market is £60,000? Or if you're listening to us from the US, that's $83,000. Finding out an employee is moving on is never great news, but sadly, it's unavoidable. The cost of hiring so high, it's important to get it right the first time round. So if you're struggling to find the right candidates, why not consider working with a recruitment agency? We're experts at finding the right people to fill roles. And because we already have a database to hand, we can speed up the process too. So head to LMRE.tech to brief us on your next hire. Now, Jeremy, we're coming to the final part, and all the listeners know it's the LMRE part. So L is you touch on the main lesson you've learned throughout your career. You have mentioned to anyone, a product, a service, whatever you would like. R is, what is your most rewarding aspect of working within PropTech, other than obviously being a fan and your amazing team? And then E, what are you most excited about for the future of PropTech? If we could start with L, lessons learned.
Lessons learned. The sense of urgency really matters in life, and I've approached a lot of things with a sense of urgency and a sense of impatience. But I think one of the things that I've learned is it generally takes a decade to build an overnight success. And so actually having some patience and making my COO, and I often talk at the end of the day about did we make a 1% improvement? And you can keep making these little 1% improvements every day. They start really stacking up and compounding. And if you're patient about making those 1% improvements every day, you look back and you're like, okay, the hell forward came. But it doesn't always feel that way. You've got to be patient. 1% every day adds up.
1% every day since 2013, proofs in the pudding. Okay, give a mention or shout out to someone or a product or whoever.
I'll give a shout out as I've done. Really, I wouldn't be here having this conversation and able to share all these things without our team, who's really helping build. And really behind every team, there's a family and who's supporting them in being able to build and everything that goes behind it. So just our team and their families and the clients that make this all possible.
Okay. Sounds like your team's probably one of the most rewarding part of it. Is there anything else that's been a rewarding part of working in this space?
What's really rewarding for me is when I hear from customers who are using our product and say, hey, I was using a HouseCanary property explorer that I pulled off of the website to buy a property. And I was getting other advice and I looked and I provided the comps and I was able to save $20,000 on my home. Or when I hear stories like that of having real impact for people, those are the best. I love those. And so when I get them on LinkedIn or through an email or somebody mentions it, those are such feel good.
Yeah, it's personal. Okay, last and final question, Jeremy. What are you most excited about for the future of PropTech?
I think I'm excited about what a lot of others are. I'm excited to ultimately, I think people will be able to get into the home of their dreams in a much easier and better way and sell that home in a more efficient way. It used to be, think of when you used to go buy a car, it would take a day of sitting there and grinding it out with somebody, negotiating. No, it's a pretty effortless experience. And if you want to get a Tesla, you can do it 2 minutes on the line. I don't know if we'll get there in housing, but it should be a lot less painful than it is today. And I think that's what we're all working toward.
A hell of a lot less fragmented, less painful and stressful for those fortunate enough to obviously being for that whole process, buying it, but then also selling it as well? Can we just make everything easier for everyone?
We're focused on getting more to instant certainty.
Yeah, no, exactly. Look, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the show, Jeremy, but is there any parting bit of information you want to leave with our audience?
No, I appreciate you listening, and please reach out if we can be helpful. Reach out to me online or on LinkedIn, and we'd love to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Jeremy, and I'll catch up with you after the show. Thank you for joining us this week on the Propcast, and a big thanks to our guests and our sponsors, Cretech and Reamtech. Make sure you visit our website, lmre.tech, where you can subscribe to our newsletter, keep up with our industry news and events, or if you're looking for your next career move, it's all on there. The Propcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, where all good content is found. Whilst we're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate it if you could spread the word and tell a friend about it, or even write us a review. And I'll catch you next week.